I had no self-confidence. I didn't have a real picture of what success looked like. People are like, what are your big dreams and goals? I'm like, I have no idea. If you're stuck in your life, it's because there's a lack of momentum in it. Momentum takes average, ordinary people and makes them appear to be superhuman.
You've taught me some things that I've never seen anywhere.
We're trying to build these neural connections, then we're trying to coat them with myelin. So the more specific, the more repetitive, the more it's an actual change. In our lives, we are constantly stacking things that we think disqualify us. My bankruptcy, my business failure, this mistake I made, nothing could be further from the truth. You are most qualified to help the person or people you used to be.
Whew, that was powerful. Ed, thank you so much for being on the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for coming over to the house.
This is really fun because you have been incredibly helpful to me, and I wanted to have you on here to see how I could take the things you've taught me and serve them, because this is
awesome.
This is my jam.
By the way, let me say something about you. I love that about you. I think the reason that you and I connect so deeply and so well is that your heart to serve people, and you think about all of that first, and all of the financial stuff is very secondary to you.
Sometimes to a fault.
Same here. And I connect with that. I resonate with it. And I think that's why your messaging, your book, Buy Back Your Time, everything you've been doing is doing so well, because people sense your intentions about it. And
I appreciate that.
I love your intentions and your ability to deliver.
Well, the first thing I wanted to ask is, everybody can go online to learn more about your personal story and the massive success you've had. And, I've been to a few of your homes, and it's just incredible. That's why I'm really inspired by the life. But who did you have to become as a person to achieve this?
Certainly not who I was, that's for sure. Well, I would say this. I always grew up, I think I'll brag about one thing. I think I've always been a pretty kind-hearted person. I've always loved and cared about people. So I think that part of me was foundationally a really good thing.
Even before you started working with the boys?
Yeah, even before I worked at the orphanage. I think I was a pretty decent human.
Yeah.
But about everything else had to change. I had no self-confidence. I didn't have a real picture of what success looked like. Even as something as, seemingly insignificant, of like having a vision and a dream for what I wanted. Like, I come from a really wonderful family. Everybody knows, most people know my dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict when I was young. But my family is not material oriented. It's not even really achievement oriented. We didn't take vacations as a family or anything like that. My family is just about loving one another and being a good family member, being a good human being, and being generous. So even remember when I got into like the business world, people are like, what are your big dreams and goals? I'm like, I have no idea. And I would literally, and it's not a bad thing, I would find someone, I kind of modeled their life at first, like I'll test run. I remember one of my first.
If that fits. How does that feel? Like
one of my first heroes was a guy, Hector was his name, and he lived on Balboa on the ocean, and then he had a golf house out in the desert. I didn't golf. But I was like, well, that looks like a pretty good combo. I could live on the ocean, and then lo and behold, here's my life. I got a desert house and ocean houses and islands and all this other stuff. But really, I just modeled the dream. So everything from my ability to communicate, to self-confidence, to even having a vision for what I wanted, I was devoid of any of those things.
One of the, I went out to my audience to ask them if you could have this conversation with Ed, what would you ask? And lady Kelly Pedersen, who actually was at your event in December, October, November, the one in with Pete Vargas and them. She asked, "Do you ever deal with imposter syndrome?"
Yes.
And how do you deal with it at this level?
Yeah, I still do. I've had some situations where I was, I'm coaching somebody who's doing something really, really significant. Maybe they've run like a big country or something like that, and I'm like, why in the world are they listening to me right now? I've literally had those experiences. I won't say which one, but I feel okay about it. I'll give everybody permission to feel it. One of the people that I have worked with was a former president. And he was telling me that his first week in office, they were in a pretty stressful meeting, and he leaned back in his seat, kind of like just to collect his thoughts. And he looked, and over his shoulder was a picture of Abraham Lincoln. And it dawned on him in that moment, what in the world am I doing sitting here right now? You know, this is like Lincoln's been here, you know, Kennedy's been here, Reagan, whoever you admire, right? He goes, it was just like an out-of-body experience. He goes, I literally sort of floated for a minute, like I'm actually sitting here and I'm the actual president. So even somebody at that level had that experience, and I have that happen sometimes. I remind myself, I had a great conversation when I was young. I just used this word about you with Wayne Dyer. He wrote a book called The Power of Intention. Beautiful. And I met him when he was writing the book.
How'd you meet him?
I was running on the beach. I won an incentive trip in our financial company. The first trip I ever won to qualify. Yeah. And it was in Maui. I'd never been there before. And I got up. No one exercised back in those days. I was one of the first ever like business athlete people.
That wasn't a thing.
Well, no one did it. I go to the gyms on trips. No one was there.
Okay.
And I read a book called The Corporate Athlete by a guy named Grappel. And I'm like, okay, I'll be a corporate athlete, a business athlete. So I'm up running early before the sun's up on the beach in Maui. This dude's running towards me. We both have Sony Walkmans on. You know, like listen to cassettes. That's how long ago it was. This guy's bald and he's got like a hairy back and he's getting closer and closer. And I'm like, I don't want to bump into this dude's sweat, you know?
Yeah.
And as he gets closer, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Wayne Dyer. And he runs by me the other way, and I took my Walkman, and I go, Dr. Dyer, you changed my life. And he has a deep voice like me, and I'll never forget, he turns around and looks at me and goes, I doubt that. I bet you changed your life, but how did I help you? And he starts to walk towards me.
Such a Wayne Dyer thing to say.
And I spent 90 minutes sitting on the beach with Wayne Dyer watching the sun come up. And when we were done, we became friends, but when we were done, he goes, Ed, I think you're going to change the world. Now, to this day, I have no idea whether or not he said that to everybody. I don't know. But he made me believe it. And he goes, and it's not because of your big brain, and it's not because you're a great communicator. He goes, it's because of your intentions. I can just tell you intend to really do great things and good for humans. And he goes, do me a favor. Never link your confidence to your abilities, which is very foreign, because in baseball or when
it's
like,
technical
you get good at something.
Skill, yeah.
He goes, you'll always be chasing your tail. You'll never be good enough. He goes, when you're under pressure, you're worrying. He goes, I just want you to focus on your intentions. Get your confidence from you intend to make a difference. You intend to serve. You intend to do right by people. Just right now, before we started, I said, I'm going to go over there really quick. You see how I disappeared?
Yeah.
I went over there. I said a little quick prayer. I reminded myself of my intentions to help people today. And I sit here pretty confident, not in my ability necessarily, but in my intent to serve. That's all you can bring to the table is your intention. So most of my life, my confidence has come from a trilogy. In the Power of One More, I call it a trilogy. But it's my faith, my intentions, and then my ability to execute is third for me every single time. So my faith, I've got a God who loves me, that believes in me, that's given me great giftedness, that put me here to make a difference. And my intent is to do well. My intent is to contribute. My intent is to serve. I get a lot of confidence from that. And then my ability to execute is third. I got a lot of ability, but sometimes you'll find yourself in a circumstance that may exceed your capacity, may exceed your preparation, ability. Right? Yeah. What do you do in those moments? What are you going to rely on then, right? At the highest level in sports, when I coach athletes, it's all predicated on ability, because everybody was the best player on their high school team. In their best league. They were all the best player on their college team. They're all the best. So at that level, the separator's ability? No, the separator's not ability. The separator's the ability to find your best performance at any given time. And for me, that's faith and intention.
So when you unpack that, I'm just going to summarize it for everybody listening. It's beautiful because the imposter syndrome may start to creep up, but you just have to go back to intention. I may not be the president today. Yep. I may not be the billionaire. I may not be as skilled as the person I'm helping, but I can go back to the core of who I know I am and why I'm showing up for this moment. And that is undeniable.
By the way, and it becomes very easy to escape it. Most things in your life that you have, one thing I told you today, I used this term with you today when we're working together. I said, you're so self-aware. You had said a thing about clinical. Being too clinical.
Yeah.
And I go, that's a better word than I was using to describe something that you need to work on. You're very, very self-aware. Same thing when there's a problem or a thought that doesn't serve you. Awareness makes it lose its power over you. So part of your brain, when you're not in coherence, so under pressure, if we're going to get technical.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, under pressure, what I work with my athletes on is not lowering their heart rate, although I think a lower heart rate is better for performance than higher. But the truth is, that's not really what messes us up. What messes us up is heart rate variability, where your heart's just at different beats. The variability quotient literally causes almost like a lobotomy for you. When your heart rate's racing like crazy, it's very difficult to think and perform clearly. So one of the things I'm constantly working on is just calming the variability, which is through breathing, which is through intention, which is through gratitude. And one of the powers is when I'm just aware I'm doing it, the thought loses its power over me, the anxiety loses its power over me. Once I'm aware of something, its power is reduced, and then I can use the techniques I have to reduce my heart rate variability so that I perform at a high level. So awareness is a really huge thing for me, just when I know I'm doing it.
So if anybody's having that imposter syndrome kick in, just be aware of it, get separate from it, see it, go back to intention.
And control your breathing. One of the main things I work with my athletes on is breathing, and it's rhythmic breathing. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But when you can control your breathing, rhythmic breathing in and out, so it's smooth and rhythmic breathing,
HRV,
and you actually breathe from your heart, because the electrical power in your heart's about 50 times greater than your brain. What begins to happen if you do that for about a minute, breathing from your heart's so important because it's where all the electrical power comes in our body. It's why we say,
I've heard there's intelligence in the heart.
What's that?
Intelligence in the heart.
The intelligence, all of it is centered there. So
Yeah.
to give you an example, your heart is sending messages to your brain. So when you hear guys use the word coherence, all coherence really means is lower heart rate variability, and there's a coherence between your brain and your heart working together. I didn't know we were going to go this deep, but it's one of the things I work on for performance with people. So one of the very basic things is just to do very rhythmic breathing that begins to get that under control. That's why, like when we say, I love you with all my heart, right? When we hold a child to us, we don't hold them next to our knee or our shoulder. We hold them next to our heart.
To the chest.
So when you're in these situations, really, faith and intention is from the heart. So then I'll control my breathing from my chest, from my heart. And that combination mixed in with a little bit of gratitude for the moment. I had told that president, I said, that comes up again. Control your breathing, focus on your intentions, focus on your faith. And then this may sound silly because everyone in personal development throws around gratitude. Gratitude's just a kicker. Gratitude's the kicker.
It's an amplifier.
Yeah. And I just go, I'm grateful to be in this moment. I'm grateful for this challenge. It's not the main thing. You can't go, I'm grateful, and you're like, oh, I'm grateful it's 3 and 2 ounces of energy. I'm not grateful, you're terrified. But if you can have the other things in place, gratitude is like the kicker to come from your heart. So it's just all little stuff that I do, but it's huge when I'm coaching athletes or peak performers or anybody in life, even my son in his golf game, my daughter before she takes a big test at Clemson. I'm like, let's get centered. God's got our back. Our intentions are to do our best. We've done all of our preparation. Let's do our rhythmic breathing from our heart and our chest. Let's be grateful for the opportunity. We're here and we have the money to be able to afford to go to this school, this amazing moment. Now let's execute and kick some ass.
It's fun for me because you've taught me so many things that I'm allowing God to kind of push me in directions, and he wants me to ask you about faith, but also the energy, because there's a lot of people say I'm not religious, but I believe in energy. And one of the things that I've loved about your message is that you have a faith, but you also believe in the quantum.
Big time.
Like, it sounds, for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. How are they the same thing? If you had to unpack that for somebody or share your own story of like, where did that, it sounded like, God was always part of your life, but maybe the other side came in, or did it come at the same time?
That's an interesting question. I don't know what came first. Probably my faith came first, but so I wrote about that in the book. I had a chapter on it, and I was happy. The chapter on faith in the book took me as long to write as the rest of the book, because I was so concerned about, if I was too faith-based, I was being disrespectful to people of other faiths, that I admire people of faith in general. And then if I went too science-y, the faith people wouldn't like it. If I went too faithy, the science, and I just went, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to write what I actually believe. And that's just going to have to stand on its own. This is who I am. This is what I think. And so I'm a Christian. And so in my case, I have a Savior, which is Jesus Christ. That's the foundation of my life. It's the creator of the universe, is God. Having said that, though, I believe that there's a quantum field where there's energy and vibration. I just think came from a creator. Yeah. So the notion that there isn't energy to me is actually it's almost impossible for someone to believe.
Silly.
You feel energy right now.
Yeah.
There's a vibrational frequency. When you have a thought that you repeat, it vibrates at a higher and higher frequency, you end up drawing it into your world. So that the idea that you don't sense energy, one thing I'm very intentional about is I know I'm always making people feel something. Most people are oblivious to this fact. You're always making people feel something. So go back to intention. I'm just slightly more intentional about what you're going to feel and experience when you're in my presence. That's vibrational frequency. So truth vibrates at the highest frequency. So the highest vibrational frequency is actually your own truth and your own faith. They're correlated. The Holy Spirit, to me, is an energy, is a sense, is a vibrational frequency. And so they're correlated for me. They're not the same thing, they're correlated. If you said I get to have one or the other, I will take my faith 100% of the time. But to understand that there's this field where I can have a knowing and a zone I'm in and a vibrational frequency and a depth of wisdom and dimension to me that I don't have without it is silly to me. And so I'm a big energy guy. I make business deals based on energy, confirmed by prayer.
That's
when I give a speech,
idea.
I give a speech, it's all about the energy that I'm putting out, confirmed by the prayer and the blessing, and hopefully the Holy Spirit gives me the words to use. So these two things together are awesome stuff. And one doesn't...
They're not mutually exclusive.
No, and I think sometimes people that are really devout in their faith are like, well, is that a you-centered thing or a God-centered thing? It's always a God-centered thing for me. But that's like saying that there's an ocean right here we're looking at right now that's beautiful, is it not? And it's making this noise behind us. Do you not feel an energy when you're closer to the water? Think about that, everybody.
Talking about it for the last few days.
Yeah, I mean, most people will tell you, man, I don't know what happens when I'm getting around the water or the energy. I feel more at peace. That's because there's an energy coming from it. Now, who created that ocean? You're up to your own conclusions. For me, there's a all-knowing God in heaven that created that ocean that I feel an energy and a peace from. So that's maybe the best description you can ever have in the real world is, when I look at that ocean, most days I go, thank you, God. It's so beautiful, so majestic. But there's an energy. Ask anybody who surfs. There's an energy. Right now, we feel the energy of the ocean, right? Yeah. If we leave my house right now, because it's about 100 yards away, the closer we get to that water, the more we feel the vibrational 100%. Frequency and the energy from it. By the way, I want this clip because that was really good right there. That's really good.
Clip that.
So, that's for social.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you brought up something that you do so beautifully, Ed, is you talked about your intention about how you make people feel. And one of several things you've taught me that had a huge impact on my life, but will on many generations, was, I don't want to get emotional about it, but the skill of telling my boys about them.
Right.
You tell people about, you know, and I literally started that practice a while ago. And if we called them right now, they'd be like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want. I was like, let me tell you about you. You know, and I'll take them separate. And they say they don't want to, but then they go, all right.
They do.
Yeah. And like, can you unpack that for people? Because I think for me, the business stuff's awesome. But wow, your ability to, because I had my life shifted when a guy named Brian showed up as a teenager and just saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Well, and especially with your upbringing, that's a big, big deal.
It was everything. And it's just available to every person to do that.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that?
Yeah. I'm writing a book right now called Let Me Tell You About You. So
Are you really?
I'm writing I'm going to leave something out of it. I want to leave some for the book. However, if you think back in your life, and I said to you for a second, I want you to think about the person who believed in you the most or made you feel the most special when you were a little boy or a little girl. Hopefully there's somebody. Some people there isn't. But for most of us, there's that grandparent or a mom or a dad or a coach or a teacher. They made you feel like all your life when you were a little boy or a little girl, there is this little voice telling you, I was born to do something great. I was supposed to do something great with my life. And then from the minute we get out into the world, that noise, that whisper starts getting more and more faint. For most people, by the time they're a teenager or 20 years old, they forgot. They don't hear it anymore. And every once in a while when you were a kid, maybe there was one person, they would whisper it back to you. They'd go, you're amazing. You're special. I love you. You're so fast. You're so strong. You're so funny. You're so handsome. And if I asked you right now, anybody listening to this or watching it, who is that person for you? Have they passed away or are they still here? Close your eyes and picture the precious face of that person. For me, it would be my grandfather, my papa. For most people, if I made you do it a while, you'd probably start crying. You'd probably start to get emotional. And if you're lucky in your life, there are 3 or 4 of those people in your life, maybe one. And you know what? They hold a special place in your heart that no one else holds. Maybe it's your spouse right now, which would be beautiful if that was the case, right? And so, because that's true, I realized in my life, what if I could be that person for hundreds of people? And all they did was tell you the truth about you. They didn't lie or exaggerate. They told you about you. So it's wonderful to go, "You're amazing, honey." That's kind of hollow. But if you say, "You're amazing, honey, because," and then you link that to a natural gift or talent that person kind of intuitively knows they have, whoo, you got it. Let me show you how that works. Wayne Dyer. I'm sitting on the beach. "Ed, you're going to change the world." Basically, you're going to do something great with your life. He barely knew me. And he said, "And let me tell you why. It's not because you're that smart, even though you're smart. It's not your voice. It's that heart of yours. It's your intentions." That's one of the few things with my lack of confidence I believe to be true about me. I am a kind person. I opened up by saying it to you, as a matter of fact, today before I told you the Wayne Dyer story. One thing I know.
You just do it so naturally now.
Yeah, so like, man, he said something true about me and then linked it to me being either happy or successful. And so in our lives, if we will study somebody, every human being, I believe, is born or develops 1 or 2 or 3 really special talents or gifts. It could be their kindness, their physical beauty, their intellect, their humor, their nurturing skills, problem-solving ability, their clinical abilities, right?
Yeah.
Their writing abilities, their speaking abilities, their touch, whatever it might be. And they kind of know they have these 1 or 2 things about them. And so when you go, "I see this in you, and this is why you're going to be happy or successful," that's what great business leaders do. You know, Collins calls it putting people in the right seats on the bus. It's way more than that. It's saying, "You're amazing at writing code, and because you're so amazing at it, you're going to do something great here." You go, "I am amazing at writing code."
The linking part that I think people miss.
It's the linkage.
You can give it's what I'm taking away, and I've seen you do this, and it's inspired me in a big way, is it has to be unique to them, that they know you're paying attention.
That's right.
And you got to link it to their desire that they know inherently is in their heart that they could accomplish.
When you're a little boy or a little girl, and you and I had different upbringings than most people, so you didn't get the benefit of this most. You watch a little kid, if they're with their mom or dad, they'll go, "Daddy, watch. Daddy, watch. Mama, watch." You ever seen a child do that?
My kids do that.
Every kid does.
And before
watch.
they do anything, they...
"Daddy, watch."
Yeah.
What they're saying is, "See me. See me. I don't want to be invisible. See me, see me." And human beings, most of us at some age, it's just, we're invisible. And even our friends, like, "Hey, bro, hey, bro, hey, bro." There's no depth. There's no dimension to it. There's nothing beneath the surface. Instead of saying, "Man, you're amazing." I told my good friend, we were talking about Richard Cabeza, my buddy on Instagram. I was with him yesterday, and we were in a little group, and I said, and I did it for him in front of the group. I said, "Let me tell you about him." And I said, "This dude," and blah, 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 blah. I'll give you the story. This is gnarly. My dog crapped all over a room the other night. One of my 2 Pomeranians. I mean, just destroyed this room. And it was super late at night. It was like 2, 3 in the morning. And this may seem super silly, but my wife and I went, "We'll get it in the morning." It was like in a back room in our house in the desert. We'll get it in the morning. So we go to sleep. I wake up to go in there, and it's done. It's gone. He's staying in my guest house. Anyway, he got up in the middle of the night and spent 2 hours and cleaned up this entire room of my... He's just the most thoughtful... People ask me, "Why are you friends?" He's so thoughtful. He's so kind. He wants to serve. And so we were in a group that next day, and I go, "Let me just tell you about this dude." Because they're like, "He's so funny. He's so funny." I'm like, "Dude, let me tell you about him.
There's more.
He's so kind, man. He's so generous. He's so giving." And he got all watery-eyed, right? Because that's the truth about him. The surface thing is he's funny. The beautiful thing about him was this other thing. And we're super close because maybe 500 times I've told him about him and linked it to something that he's doing. And so I just feel like that's one of the things in my life I've been really, really, of like maybe a very few handful of things I'm good at doing. It's seeing someone's giftedness, seeing someone's talent, seeing someone's truth. And man, do they feel like the light is really on them when you do that. The surface compliments of "You're awesome, you're amazing, you're incredible," that means nothing. That means
especially if it
nothing.
can be used for anybody.
Right.
It's almost like if the sentence could be said to another person and it land, it's not specific enough.
If you pictured, everybody's got a flashing sign on their forehead that just said, "Make me feel special, make me feel amazing, tell me something unique about me to me." If you just pictured that, it's literally what's flashing. You just did it. We were just talking about it, right? You just did this. He sits down and a meeting, you're like, let me tell you, he's the best in the world at this, right? And by the way, it's true, so it resonates. So the people that you do that with, you'll be connected to them in a way that maybe a handful of human beings in their entire life are.
One of the other things, Ed, that I absolutely admire about you is your drive to serve others. To, like you kind of came into this social media influence space, but you didn't have to. Like you. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. But like you had the success, you built the businesses and all that stuff, and you came back. And I remember we were together and you shared a story about how important that is to serve other people in spite of your fear. And I know there's a lot of people watching that are starting in their business early days, and they know they should be picking up the phone and doing the cold calls. They know they should be doing some ads. They know they should be going door to door knocking. They know they should be asking for the order. But their anxiety is stopping them because what I believe is they haven't connected their service to service.
Yep.
Their product to impact. And you shared a story that was just so moving for me to me, it's like you reminded me, I got to do more of that. When I was working on the book, it's like, I gotta ask for support. Like I didn't do it and I let people down. And I don't know if you remember this story, but it was about a couple that in the early days.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Could
you share that one?
And the reason I just interrupted you is because it's a painful story to tell and I want to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
But it's maybe the most important thing you could ask me. Here's what I would say to you. You learn from my experiences of the good and the bad. And this one I'll share with you is the worst thing I've done, which is that it's not only what you will do if you serve somebody with your product or your company or mission, it's what might happen to them if you don't. Sometimes we only focus on, hey, if I get this deal closed, they'll be better and I'll make some money. But what if you don't? Like, what if you had the cure for cancer and you just didn't share it with somebody, right? Well, I was in the insurance business. I had helped a lot of families, but there's just this, I had a couple rejections recently. So I went into these beautiful people's homes. I won't say their names, but they had a child and they were pregnant. And I was a little down, a little bit tired and a little bit down that night. And the normal me, they gave me some resistance, let us think about it. And
the normal stuff.
And normally I'd be like, no, here we go. And I'd already had a couple rejections, and it was my ego. I was down about me. My performance was conditional on how I felt. And for most people, we always say the highest form of love is unconditional love. Well, the great performers in life, their performance is unconditional. Unconditional what the score of the game is, unconditional about how they're feeling. You watch a good football player, yeah, you're great when you're up 23-6 or when it's close. What if you're down 41-7? Is your performance conditional? Are you still hustling as hard? Are you still trying as hard? Are you still hitting them as hard? So my performance was conditional. And this beautiful family, I kind of let them put me off. I didn't do what I knew I was supposed to do, which is say, no, listen, brother, you don't have any insurance. You have a child and a pregnant wife, and if God forbid something happened to you, their life would be ruined. And I'm here now, and I didn't do it. I let him delay me. And I let him delay me because of my own ego. And for me not thinking, what happens if I don't help them? And so we had set an appointment up to get together a few days later, and I'll fast forward because we're on a podcast, but I never got to meet with them again because there was a car accident that happened. And both mother and father's life was lost. And baby lived, and they had another child. And I left that family, those two children, with no financial means whatsoever. I left them without protection. I left them without their neighborhood anymore, the home they were living in, and they were forced to be raised by in-laws that weren't doing very well either, whose lives weren't very well adjusted. And I really harmed those children. And I harmed the legacy of the two loving parents by not getting them to do something that was in their best interest because I was down.
You were off.
Because the truth is, in hindsight, I was a little down. I was a little tired. I wasn't feeling it. The conditions weren't great. And I let that slip just a little bit. And here I am at 51 years old, and there's not very many days that go by that I don't have some guilt in my heart that I let that happen to that family. And it's one of those invisible things. No one would ever know. I mean, if I didn't tell anybody, it wasn't something I did that didn't work out. It was something I didn't do that should have worked out. And had I done the right thing, those precious babies would have had college funds. Those precious kids could have kept their neighborhood and their schools.
All they had
and
to
their
do was
church.
sign.
All I had to do was get them to sign the application. And I didn't do it. And I'll be honest with you. I will carry that forever. I can't undo that. I can't undo it. I will carry it forever. And it is, the good part is I think I've helped millions of other people on a lot of days of my life where the conditions weren't great, where I didn't feel like it. I was down. I didn't need to. I was rich. I was this. That experience was formative for me because my endeavor is to never have that happen again. I don't like how this feels. This is, by the way, more than 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And here I am in my living room talking to you about it, and I feel shame about it because I'm better than that, and that family deserved better than that from me, and I didn't give it to them. So
it sounds that moment shaped you as somebody that could achieve, though.
It's a defining moment in my life. You can never say it's not about you but it became a lot less about me. I can't say that it's, helping people is a selfish thing for me. It's selfish because I love how I feel about me when I do it.
It's like giving to others. It's like, who's this really for?
I get a lot of significance out of doing it. And man, do I feel horrible with the thought that I could have and I didn't. And I already have one major could have and I didn't in my life, and I don't want a long list of those. I was not born to have a bunch of I could have and I didn't. I should have and I didn't. My ego was too big or I was too scared. Most people, their dreams are cost because of their ego or they're afraid. And I don't know if that night it was my ego because I was down or I was afraid they were going to reject me and the previous two people had, and I just couldn't handle another rejection. But whatever that was that night cost them tremendously.
But what I take away is that created a sense of drive and desire to achieve in your life. And it's taught you some skills. Like, you've taught me some things that I've never seen anywhere. Like, I mean, and I don't even know what, because I know you've never shared this publicly, but, even just the way you do achievement and goal setting and processing, and there's some deep stuff, like nuance, but powerful around standards and rewards. But the visualization one was one I'd never heard anybody talk about around, like people talk about visualization, but you were making us rewind it, change the, and you mentioned, a few different places where you're inspired around this. Could you unpack that? Cause I've been doing this for a long time, 20 some years of personal development, and I'd never had anybody share it that way. About
how we do some of our
visualization, the colors and the music. And
I'll give some of them, but I want to keep some of them
exactly.
for the people I
this
coach.
Is what you do.
But what I will say is that most people don't visualize what they visualize. So when you ask them, hey, do you visualize? Like, oh yeah, I visualize. And then I'll say, okay, so what are you looking at? And they can't even tell you where the camera is, for example. A visualization is you're seeing something. So went back for me, I was playing baseball and I got hurt, and the guy goes, we're going to visualize you hitting a line drive up the middle.
Because you're trying to rehab.
And I was rehabbing, getting better. And he goes, did you see it? I go, yeah, I hit a line drive up the middle. He goes, okay, good. Where was the camera? I go, what? He goes, where's the camera in your mind? I go, I don't know. What are you talking about? He goes, you just said you visualized. You visualized, right? I go, he goes, where's the camera? He goes, Ed, is the camera over the center field? Like, are you watching it on TV and it's going over the pitcher and watching you in the batter's box? Is that the camera? Or is it you in the batter's box looking out at the pitcher? Or is it you in the on-deck circle watching the whole thing happen? I went, I don't know. He goes, then you didn't visualize.
It matters.
I went, whoa. So, because by the way, we're trying to build these new neural connections, and then we're trying to code them with myelin. So the more specific, the more repetitive, the more it's an actual change. So he goes, pick the camera angle. I go, it's me in the batter's box. He goes, okay, now we can visualize. And then it went all the way down to where's the ball? Can you see, is the pitcher left or right-handed? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, how do you not know? But no one knows. And then we would break it down all the way to where I could see, he goes, can you see the release point? He's right-handed, it's above his right ear. Okay, good. And then the ball would come in. Can you see the stitches rotating? Can you slow it down? When you're in the batter's box, can you see the bat hitting the ball? I go, no. He goes, now see it. See the bat hit the ball. Now the stitches should be rotating back the other way now. And it was that specific. And then the ball would go right over his right ear. And so I got to the point where, man, I could see this in a very specific visualization. And then he would have me go, speed it up. Do it in fast motion. Now do it in slow motion. Hey, make it black and white. Make it color. And so what's happening is I'm creating all kinds of new pathways by seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And when we do that, now we've actually started to rewire ourselves. And so what you experience, that I'm not going to cover on the show, is I can teach people how to do that in a very hyper-focused way in about any area of their life, to where their mind now becomes a weapon in their favor. And here's why that's important. The things we fear in our life and worry about, we visualize those with great specificity.
It's almost like a mantra in their head.
It is a pattern, and it's a loop. And you run it, and then you do it over, and then you'll slow it down, and then you'll add emotion to it. And sometimes on bad days, you'll make it black and white, and you'll see it and you can flip the camera angle and see it. So on problems and worries, our brain's incredible at doing this. But on things we want, it's like, oh, I see the ocean. I see my dream house. Really? What do you see? I don't know. But I see a picture of it. Okay, you see one angle, it's a snapshot. Yeah. Is there sound? Did you add anything auditory? Did you add anything kinesthetic?
Smells,
Did you change the color? Can you smell anything? And it really, what it comes down to is developing what we call like real sensory acuity. The more senses, the more acute it is, the more we've built real pathways in our brain. No one's ever asked me this on a podcast, and I don't want to keep some of this for the stuff that I do.
You keep unpacking
but
it.
But having said it, because I get very passionate about this, is like, you're a way better visualizer than you think. You just do it with your problems. You're really good at it, and you do it all the time. And you don't even have to hit a button. You can do it when you wake up. You can do it when you go to sleep. You can do it when you're driving in your car. You can do it sometimes. You're just having a great time. You're like, nah, let me give myself a hit on my worries. Bam, and you get a little bit more of your worries. When I'm passionate about, And so we're great at this in the negative things in our life. The people that are most blissful and successful and do it the easiest. Let me say this last to you. When you get good at really visualizing and creating new neural pathways, whatever you want, just seeing things more repeatedly, the success or bliss piece of it is much easier to do and feels less taxing on you. You're less fatigued, less stressed, and you want to do it again. Doing it without it, you still achieved without it. You've still acquired things without it. But let's just be real. For a lot of you, it wasn't what you thought it would be when you got there, because it was so much of a taxing grind to get there. Where what if there were a way to do it that's still difficult, it's still a grind, but it's far less taxing on you emotionally and physically and psychologically to get there.
It's interesting because as you say this, it reminded me that I have an easier time worrying. Sure. Isn't that crazy that like we're literally connecting the neural pathways of the things we don't want easier as a default than the desire of the...
By the way, 98.9% of the people listening to this are going, oh, me too. Me too. Most human beings, because it's
like
been a
the
pattern.
Visualization, literally the way you're saying that we can turn it black and white and we can hit it from different angles. But what if this would happen?
Of course.
But we never do that for the positive
You don't run different... By the way, with your worries, you can play the same video with like 8 different scenarios too. And it'll all be negative ones that you run in a loop. And then you got all these triggers to run them. And it doesn't take a lot to get you into that state. Whereas most people have no triggers for the positive, no triggers for the visualization, no triggers for building those new pathways.
And that's what you're saying is build the triggers and the mechanisms to get into that visualization easier, because it'll actually allow you to create easier.
And the last thing I would say to it is, it's just a muscle. You probably won't be very good at it at first. And then the more you do it, you're like, man, I'm getting better and better at this. By the way, there are things that you are good at it with. So if there's ever been like a person you wanted to date when you were younger, or now that you're sort of obsessed with them a little bit, maybe not in an unhealthy way, I'm talking about stalkerish, but like, You've had lots of visualizations about it.
Yeah.
You've pictured lots of different angles, lots of different stuff, some of which you don't even want to repeat, right?
Yeah.
But there's a little glimpse in your ability to do it. There's a little glimpse there on the positive things you want. You could visualize it. You could see it. You can see all kinds of stuff. You can slow it down. You could speed it up. You can change the angle. So you have the ability within you. It's just very minute compared to the negative things.
To use it. One of the things I want to wrap up on, Ed, and it's, the power of one more. You talk about it, is just every person has the potential to be the one.
Yeah.
And I didn't call it that. But if you meet my family, they will definitely say, like,
Of course you are.
Dan went first.
Yep.
And then people always say, well, were your brothers and sisters in trouble growing up? Yeah. But it seemed like once I got my life together and I changed the energy, that everybody just kind of came with us. And like, how beautiful is it? And this is the thing I want to acknowledge is the moment you realize that there was a one for your dad. Your dad was an alcoholic and somebody showed up and was that for him, and it shifted his life and your life and my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm here with you.
Yeah. So thank you for asking that. I wrote The Power of One More, and a lot of it has to do with my dad. And, one more was my dad got sober one more time. And then when he stayed sober one day at a time. It's interesting because that's a little bit of the book, but the rest of it is like really detailed stuff, as you know. But after I wrote it was about 6 months after I wrote it. It was out, actually. Woke up right down the bedroom right below where we're sitting right now.
In this house?
Yeah, in this house.
Wow.
I was crying. And Christiane woke up. She goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Babe," I was kind of gasping. And I'm like, "Someone helped Daddy." And she's like, "What?" And I go, "Someone helped Daddy." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "Someone helped my dad get sober." Why in the world this never occurred to me before, but in my dad's program, someone helps you. And she goes, "Oh my gosh," she said, "this person has no idea I'm my dad's son." So the ripple effect, they did something great with their life. They helped my dad in the darkest, lowest moment of my father may be taking his own life. Certainly was going to lose his family, certainly losing his career, but maybe his life. In my dad's lowest moment of his life, some precious human being stepped forward and said, "I see you. I see you. I can help you. Let me tell you about you." And they changed and saved my dad's life. That person has no idea that because they helped my dad, I'm his son, I've reached millions of people. They have no idea the ripple effect of that one act of kindness, that one act of my intention is to serve you. Now, that's incredible. My wife goes, "Oh my gosh." I said, "That's not even the most amazing thing. The most amazing thing is what qualified this person to help my dad. What qualified this person to help my dad is the very thing most of us think disqualifies us from ever being successful. It was the things that human being was most ashamed of, most embarrassed by. You know what qualified them? They were also a drunk at one time. They were also a drug addict. They were also a liar. They were also living in the shadows. They were also ashamed at one time in their life. And because of that, the thing that they thought disqualified them was the very thing that was qualifying them to change my dad's life and be the one in my dad's life. In our lives, we are constantly stacking things that we think disqualify us. My bankruptcy, my business failure, this sin of mine, this thing I cheated on, this mistake I made. Maybe it's none of that. I've just always been invisible and average and ordinary, so I'm disqualified going forward from not being. And we stack these things and believe we're disqualified. Nothing could be further from the truth. You are most qualified to help the person or people you used to be. You used to be. And in my dad's case, right? That guy used to be a drunk. That dude used to be an alcoholic. That person used to be a liar and a drug addict. That's what qualified them. So they could look at my dad and go, "Let me tell you about you.
I know
who you are. I'm also that person, and I changed." And that's also why it's so important in life to continue to grow and change, because every time you evolve into the next version of you, you're more qualified to help the people you used to be. And so you're not disqualified from being successful. You're not disqualified from being the one. In fact, probably the things that you think are the disqualifiers are the very things God would prefer to use to help you change other people's lives and ultimately your own. Even that mistake I made with my family, that family that I didn't help, I could have easily lived the rest of my life going, man, I'm disqualified. I didn't help that family. That's not the case. The case is I'm immensely qualified because I made that mistake to never do it again and to help all these other families. Do you know how many families I told, I'm not leaving here tonight because let me tell you about this mistake I made once and I'm not making it tonight with your family. And how many of them were persuaded by that story to then participate? So the thing I thought disqualified me actually qualified me most to help the rest of the families.
Whew.
It's true.
That was powerful.
Yeah.
Because I think most people wouldn't have connected the shame, the area of life that they feel less than deficit as the tool that they should be using to go serve the world.
If you're faith-based, and
Yeah.
if you're not, that's okay, everybody listening, but if you're faith-based, if I'm the adversary and I want to get you to quit on your dream, there's one weapon I'm going to use against you: discouragement. I'm going to get you discouraged and believe you're disqualified, because if I can get you to believe that, you have no chance. And most people are walking around discouraged, thinking they're disqualified, and they're actually hanging that lie onto the very thing that is probably their qualifier. That's the irony. Wow. It's like if you really, in politics right now, what you do in politics if you want to win, you accuse the other party of the very thing you do. And you do it before they can accuse you. And so in life, what we do, the adversary does, is he gets us to accuse us with the things that are the very thing that would be the key to get us to go change our life. He uses it as a weapon against us. And so don't let anybody do that to you.
That's beautiful. Ed, as we wrap up, last night I was we're staying at the Ritz, and one of the girls asked, she said, "What are you doing in town?" I said, "We're doing a bunch of stuff, and I'm interviewing this guy, Ed." And, "Oh, who is he?" I said, "Oh, Ed Mylett. He's got a super popular podcast." She goes, "Ed Mylett, why do I know that name?" "Well, you probably know him from social media and followership." And she pulls out her phone, and her mom had been sending your episodes to this woman.
That's cool.
But she just is my mom sending me stuff.
Yep.
And she goes, "Well, what does he do?" And I said, "Well, ask me a question for him." And here's the question that she wanted me to ask you that I thought was just appropriate way for us to wrap up, which is, she's got a dream and she wants to go for it, but she's scared and she gets it. She reads the personal development. What do you think she's missing in the one belief that would cause her to just go for it? The people that are listening there on the sidelines and they're like, just what do I not see that would be enough for me to finally do it? What would you say to that?
Well, we've covered a lot of the things today. I'll give you one thing, is that you can't, no one can teach you how to drive a parked car. And there's a thing in your life that's a magnifier called momentum. And if you see anybody who's got something pretty good going in their life, they got a little momentum.
Just a bit.
Like, you're a hockey fan because you're from Canada.
Yeah.
Does the best team every year win the Stanley Cup? No. Often it's the team with the goaltender with the most momentum. In baseball in the postseason, very rarely does the team with the best record win the MLB World Series. It's the team with the hottest pitching staff or the hottest bats. They get momentum. And if you're stuck in your life, it's because there's a lack of momentum in it. Momentum takes average, ordinary people and makes them appear to be superhuman. And superhuman is just a matter of momentum. So what do you do to generate momentum is the key. You have to do really difficult and feared things first. So in your day, people always say, do first things first. In your life, if you could start to build the habit of doing feared things first, difficult things first, I actually think that people that are successful have a different relationship with pain than people that are unsuccessful.
About that.
I think that I had Phil Heath on my podcast, who's won Mr. Olympia like 6 times, which is just insane. And I said, "Phil, why do you think you won 6 Olympias?" And he gave a good answer, because Phil's brilliant. And I said, "I don't think that's why." He goes, "You don't?" I said, "No, I think you have a different relationship with pain. I think you chase pain in the gym. I think when everybody else is doing leg day and they've thrown up twice, they kind of throw down. You go, I'm going to barf again. I'm going to do 3 of them." You started to correlate going through pain with winning. And what I will tell you is that Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, it's a great book, but the best part of it is, most people don't know this, if you can survive the temporary, on the other side of temporary pain, you meet another version of yourself. And I have found that in my life. Most people avoid pain and discomfort, and that what happens is they never create any momentum in their life. And so if you can survive the temporary, and all pain is temporary. My dad was in a lot of pain when he had cancer, and when he passed away, that pain's gone. So all pain is temporary. The only thing that's permanent is our souls in our life. And if you're a young person listening to this, I'm going to tell you something. You don't want to get to the end of your life and play your life scared. There's nothing like getting to the end of a life, and I meet people like this all the time, and they go, I wanted it, and I never went for it because I was afraid. And to me, when you die, I want to go to heaven. I want the Lord to say, well done, good and faithful servant. But you've heard me say this before. I actually think you meet the man or woman you were capable of becoming.
He's going to introduce you to somebody.
I think you meet the man or woman you were capable of when you were born, with the destiny of your life. And to me, heaven is to say, hey, man, I've been chasing that you all my life. And to have the ultimate me with the memories, the emotions, the experiences, the dreams, the contribution, go, hey, man, been watching you. You did it.
Nice work.
You caught me, man.
Yeah.
You caught it.
And he looks like you.
To me, that's heaven.
Yeah.
Hell looks a lot different. You get to heaven, you get there, and that ultimate version of you is there, and you go, I was chasing you, and I saw you were coming, and then I had this setback, and the economy changed, and someone hurt me, and I had a relationship not work, and I just crap. I blew it. And you know what? I was just afraid. I lived my life afraid. And the ultimate version is going to look back and go, I saw that. And you don't get another one. You don't get another one. I'm really sorry I don't recognize you. To me, that's hell. And I think there has to become a point in your life where you just decide, metaphorically at least, you want to go to heaven. And you do that by doing really difficult things in a short period of time. And then I'll give you one last thing. I write about this in my book. You got to give yourself credit for invisible progress. So
What's that?
Most people quit in life because they don't see tangible, visible progress. So I went to I'll tell you this last. Several years back, I got invited to a 4-year-old's birthday party. I did not want to go because it was 4-year-olds. I go, and they had a piñata there. You know what a piñata is?
Where you whack it.
And it's the greatest metaphor I ever saw in my entire life for life. So what do? They take this little kid, they put a blindfold on him, they spin him around and give him a bat, and he's just swinging and flailing. He doesn't even know where the piñata is. That's a lot like a startup entrepreneur or someone with a dream. So finally what do? He gets a little coaching, they point him at the piñata. So now he's hitting the piñata, bang, 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 beating it. No candy comes out. He finally goes, this thing ain't working. So he quits. You've been to these parties.
Nice guy.
They
Nice
take the
kid.
next little guy, blindfold him, spin him around. He whacks it. Next kid whacks it. So like 6 kids go to beat the heck out of this piñata. No candy's coming out. There's no progress. So they all bail to the swing set. Left is this little 3-year-old little girl. They put the piñata, they give the blindfold to her. She gets the bat, swings once,
swipe.
bam, hits
Boom.
it, bam, all the candy comes out. Every kid runs back and jumps and gets all the candy. What broke the piñata? Was it that little kid's last shot, or was it the compound pounding of the cumulative shots of all the shots on the piñata before? Well, we all know the answer. It was the cumulative blows, the compound pounding on that piñata. Is the last one knocked it out. In life, most people quit before the candy comes out because they don't see the piñata breaking, even though, because they're not taking credit for invisible progress from what I call compound pounding. You keep compounding the pounding you're doing, and even though it doesn't look like it, you're breaking down that piñata towards your dream, towards that moment. But you've seen this, just most people, man, they just quit before the candy comes out.
And it's right there.
It's right there. And we don't know when the next blow is, but if you're waiting for visible progress all the time, you're probably going to quit. You have to give yourself credit for compound pounding. Life and business is a lot. Raising kids is that way. It's a lot like the piñata. You're like, am I getting through
Is this
here? Is
working?
anything happening? I don't see any progress. They still misbehave. They're still this. But hopefully when they become adults, the candy comes out.
Yeah.
Business, the candy comes out. Bliss, the candy. Training and working out. You're working out. You hit a wall. You're like, I can't lose these 10 pounds. Keep going. Eventually the candy comes out. So in life, it's a lot like a piñata.
I wish we would have done this in front of like thousands of people, because we'd be getting standing ovation over standing ovation.
I'm glad-
This has
I'm glad
been
you're in my
incredible. No,
Thanks.
for real. Like
Thanks.
this was beautiful. If you haven't gotten Ed's book, go get his book. If you're on Amazon at the same time, you might want to throw mine in the basket. But I actually signed your copy, and I said, thank you for never quitting. Because I want to acknowledge you, because like you've had such an impact on my life, and at any point you could have had somebody by your will to win.
Thank you.
And you didn't.
Neither of you, brother. That's why
I
I admire
appreciate
you.
that. It's a
Excited
real
about our
honor.
friendship.
Thanks so much, Ed.
Hey,
Cheers.